The other important CSS effects, we will see how to use display, float options, how we use them. So generally, the CSS related display, already so many times we learned display. We discussed about display grid, we discussed about display flex, display inline, display block, display none. All these are display or related options. We have display table like options also. So display related, so many options are there. So we can use those display options. So the point is, what are the other display options available? So already we learned few options and some more we need to understand. So what are the display options available? So let's check that. So generally in CSS display options, so we have like grid, flex, inline, table and all. Already we know to display side by side, which option is used? Inline. We have learned inline can be used. So side by side. What is difference between flex and inline is, flex will keep that available according to the situation. That means it will be, means according to the browser size, it will adjust. So let's take one example here. Already we know them. So many times we use it, but few proper examples we will see, then we will get a clarity on that. So generally, let's add a new option here, display .html. And we are configuring that. So doc type HTML head title, so display, so body, right? And here, so suppose we have some design, like we created a form. Okay, so in that form we have a div. In that div we have input type is equal to text, and a placeholder we will put as user name. This is one text box. Another div, so type is equal to text, password. So placeholder I defined as password. Okay, after that we designed a div, and this is button and login. All these are kept in divs, right? And we run this. Usually div will display all one below another. So then what I want to display side by side, then simply for this form I am adding a class. So I will give as form inline, form inline. So generally form inline, so or form, some form name I will give. So here we will put a style and use the class form inline. For this we want to just keep display as inline. That's it. Display inline is going to display that, so inline. But here one more option is, we have to display inline, not form, the divs inside the form. That is important. That means all the divs inside the form must be inline, side by side, not the form. So the form inline, so inside that whatever divs are present, we have to use the selectors like this. That means the form inline, inside that forms have divs. The content must be inline, side by side. This makes everything display side by side. You can see it will display side by side. This is inline display. If you want to keep the content side by side, then we need to manage that by using form inline. we have to configure that by using inline. So we have form inline, that is display inline, and display we have a grid, display we have flex. So generally already we learned so many examples on display grid. So, and we will see some more options, display flex, how we can manage them. Display grid already options we have learned, but still I will show you one more option. Generally when we are using display, we have a display grid option. We have display inline, display block. Block means one below another, and we have display none, that means hide it. And we have to define the display options, and the display options what we want is grid like display we want to configure. Then grid like options, how we manage and what are the options to mention for grid. When you are using display grid, then we have to use the options. Additionally, for grid, we have grid template columns, and we have to use grid row. So we have to use grid column, and we have to use grid gap. These things already we discussed. We can arrange display grid. We can arrange the information into rows and columns. So already we know this. One more time I will show you here. Means already we used in several examples. So here I am keeping a header. So suppose some header, okay. And below this we have a section, okay. So in the section, so we are having some aside. Okay, in the section, this is some aside. So we have like main. So this is like main. Okay, just options we are configuring. And we have like footer. So footer, like this we have, this is footer. Already so many designs we created, that's the reason simple text I am defining. All looks normal here. Now what we will do is here, suppose I will just keep the options arranging, how we can arrange all the content, and make sure that all this is defined inside a container. All these are present inside a container. So I will use for the body, so class as container, okay. Now what we will do is, here we will put first container, that is body. So display as grid. Okay. After mentioning display as grid, now we need to arrange the contents. How many columns you want, you have to tell. So display grid, we have to tell about the columns. Grid template columns, how many fractions? I told you 12 fractions you can give. So I will say how many columns you want to divide. 12 fractions. So we can say 3 fraction. 3 I want to divide. Out of 12 we have to share 3. That means left side I will keep as 2 fractions. Center I will keep as 8 fractions. Right side I will keep as again 2 fractions. Out of 12 we have to share that fractions. We can write pixels also, but fractions are good. They will make good flexible. Okay. That is 3 divisions will be there. You can see divisions are there. But where to put header, 3 divisions are there. Where to put header, this we have to decide. So I am writing header. For header, so we have border, 2 pixel, some solid. You can see header is having a border. Okay, so footer is also having a border. Section is also having a border. For all of them, we are giving borders. Okay. Now where we want to keep the header. So header, we have to use grid row. It should be in first row. It should be in first row. That means header, it will be in first row. Okay. Next one. So footer. So grid row should be third. It should be in third row. Footer will be in third row. And section will be grid row. It will be in second row. Section will be in second row. That's how we are dividing. That means we have header at the top, section in the second, and footer at the bottom. We are configuring like that. Now you can adjust the width and height and the content accordingly. Suppose for section, suppose I say width as suppose as 100% width, and border, height for section, I'll say 350 pixel. That means the section height will increase. This is the section. And width 100% because content, according to content. Suppose width 800 pixels. That means the width will be adjusted for that. So width will be like 1200 pixel. Then it will be like this. I'm adjusting here. So 1000 pixel like this. So that is the option here. And important is in which row they want to display. Header in first row, footer in last row, section in this row. We have aside, articles, and all these options also. That means you see here we have aside and main options also defined here. Where you want to arrange, suppose I said aside. Aside is also having border, so 1 pixel red. So and that is aside. And we have like main. So main border as 1 pixel green. So like this. We have aside and all this. So for aside and main, so we are configuring border. But actually aside and main are present inside the section. We need to keep them aligned. So suppose I am giving here grid row, they should be in second row, and the grid column, so it should be in third column. I am arranging like this. That means aside has to arrange the content in this way, but generally we have to adjust the width and height for this. Because without width and height, suppose width is 100 pixel, it will be 100 pixel. And we have to define the border for aside and art, but they are present in grid template inside section, not directly. That means now we used a container. That means it will work only for header, footer, and section. It will not work for aside and main. Why? Because aside and main are present inside section. So again, you have to divide the section into columns and we can arrange them. So you cannot affect the content inside this section, because this container will affect only for this parents. Only for this parent, not for child. In child, you have to use again. So this is not correct. So to handle that, because you have to define section. Inside the section, we have to divide. That means what you need to do here, inside the section, again, we need to create a grid. display grid. In that we need to arrange side by side. Already I given you one example. I given you a task also, if you remembered, arranging the information into rows and columns and grid. One task also I given. Some people have submitted those tasks also, right? So this is not a new concept. Everyone tried that example now. Display grid example. Everyone tried that now. Already I given that as an exercise also, right? So I given as an exercise, and example is already there. Just I am explaining one more time these points. So because situation comes here, that is the reason. So that is display how we can handle the grid. So already we saw examples. Flex also we saw, but display flex also, so many examples we have seen, so many times we designed, but we will see how to create a display flex with the flex box. We generally call that mechanism as flex box. We have to learn it correctly, means how we can use display flex. Actually, so display flex will have a flex box technique. This is important. That means flexible means responsive will come. Responsive will come. Actually, display flex, flexible layout. So how we can design that? See, flexible layout, we actually have. So this is the box. We generally call this is called as flex container. We call this as flex container. Okay. Inside the flex container, so we will have some items arranged inside them. We have some items arranged inside them. In the container, we have some items arranged. So these are called flex item. Flex item. So these are flex items. So a flex container contains collection of flex items. Okay. Now we have to arrange flexible. For that, actually what options we will have is, for container, generally we will have options. We will have options like, so flex container have display, and it will have a flex direction. It will have a flex direction, and it will have flex wrap. Flex wrap. It will have flex flow, and it will have options justify content, align items, and align content. These are container. That is flex container. And every flex item have some attributes. The flex item attributes, we have like order, we have like flex grow, we have like flex shrink, we have like flex basic, we have like flex, and we have like align self. These options will be there. We need to arrange according to the situation. I will show some examples how we can use display flex, how we can arrange the contents, what is flex directions, so flex wrapping, flex flow, how to handle them. So let's create one example for that. That means how to understand the flexible directions. Flex C. Now suppose this is very much used because you will see in websites. Suppose you open Amazon. You see in Amazon, actually you see these cards. These are cards boxes created through flex boxes. And when I increase the zoom levels, they should fit into it. They should, when I go to mobile, they should come to next line. Screen size is shrinking. It should adjust accordingly. Then we can design that by using flex box. So let's see. I will put a title flex. First, see how we can design that flex. I will create a div class as container. Okay. Inside this, we have a div. So this div is like box one. Okay. Like that, we will put some boxes here. So box 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 like this. So 2, so 3, so 4, 5, some boxes are there. And I will put a class for all of them as box. So all are boxes. Okay, we will design a proper card style also. That is box. Okay. Next, now here what we are doing is, in this we are applying the effect for box. So style and box, wherever box is there. So border as 2 pixel and solid, and padding 10 pixel and margin 5 pixel. Okay, you can have some certain height and width for the border. Okay. Now observe carefully here. When we run this, this is going to display all the boxes like this. I want all the boxes side by side, arranged side by side. Then they are all kept in container. I will use container display as flex. Now you can see all will be side by side. Okay, good. But see what happens is, when we are using here, so I am zooming this. First we will see flex, direction, reverse, how we can handle that. You can see here flex it is arranged in row side by side. It is arranged in row. We can change the direction actually. Direction. So here what you can do is, we can keep that the flex directions as row reverse, column reverse. These are called flex direction. That means here I am using an attribute. After display flex, we have to write flex direction. Flex direction, I said row. By default, you can see that it is row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will use row reverse. Then it will arrange in reverse order. You can see like this. That means 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that means this order. This kind of arrangement is required to put the recent items at the top. That means when people are watching your content, the recent items must be at the top. So they should come. So then old items should go bottom. You can arrange them in reverse. You can arrange them in reverse. You can use here column. Column means it will display in column. And we can also use column reverse. That means it will be in reverse order like this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Latest added item, you can push it at the top. We can change the box location also, so that you can manage by using flex directions. We can do that by using flex directions. So direction is very important. So row direction, column direction. One more, by default it is row. Another point is, observe carefully. When I increase the zoom level and or I am changing the browser width. When I adjust the browser width, you can see that the boxes will scroll left and right. The boxes will scroll in left and right when I am increasing the zoom levels. That means if I go to tabs, mobile-like devices, this is not a good appearance. This is not a good appearance because you cannot expect in tab and mobile-like devices to scroll left, right and all. So then what you can do is, we can put flex wrap. By default it is no wrap. We can put wrap. By default it is no wrap. We can put as wrap. We can put wrap reverse order also it will come. When I put wrap, then you see now when I adjust the width, these will fit accordingly. That looks good. This is how we do. That means the boxes will fit according to the width. That is perfect. This is how generally we need. When I am watching on a mobile, it will fit to that mobile screen. So when I am decreasing the zoom levels, it will fit accordingly. I am adjusting the width, the content will fit accordingly. This is the best way of presenting. We have to use wraps. We can configure that and we can define that wrap. And of course, we can also change the flex in row or column or wrap, no wrap. These options we can manage. Here I just used boxes. Generally, we can create a separate content and show that content here. So card-like designs that I will show you in Bootstrap. We will design cards and we will keep them in that option. That is how we can configure the flex. Another important is how to justify the content when you are using flex. This is for flex box, how you are arranging your flex box with wrapping or not and configuring with wrapping or not. Actually, you can justify the content. Justify the content is nothing but we can use an option called flex flow. We can use an option called flex flow. We can use flex flow. Actually, flex flow will allow to arrange in row and wrap. Directly you can use both options instead of writing separately. Instead of writing flex wrap and flex row separately, you can write simply flex flow. We can use row wrap. We can use column no wrap. So column and no wrap. Like that you can directly add. So flex flow is very much used to arrange everything in one option. And there is an option justify content. Justify content. So how we can arrange the content inside it. For example, see, suppose we are writing separately like flex wrap separate and flex direction separate, like row like this. We can write both in one way, in one option, that is flex flow. In flex flow, we can put wrap, we can put row. So better use flex flow if you want both options to handle. That means it will be wrap and it will be in row. It will be in row. And now observe carefully. The contents are like this according to the width. I will use justify content. Justify content. We can use justify content space between. So suppose I am giving space between. And you can see that it will justify the content by adding space between. That's good. That means it will fit these contents with the space. It will fit the content with space. When you are adjusting the width, you can see that they will be adjusted accordingly. Space between, space will be adjusted correctly. So we can put proper space. That's very important for flexible design. We can use space between. We can put an option like flex start. That means from the starting. We can say end. That means it will get it from the right side end. And we can put an option space around. Space around. That means space will be before the first box also. Otherwise, space between will not add. Space between will not add for the first box. First box, last box also, around them we need correct space. Then we can use space around to arrange that space content. So we can use even spaces. We can arrange the content in this way. That is what actually important for flex. So this is justifying the content. So when you display in rows and when we are using wrap, it is important to use justify content. justify content. So how you can configure the content. So that is how you define. Now generally flex flow is enough. You can adjust both of them here. One more option is we can also give for the items inside flex box. This is the box. For the items in the flex box, you can also give like flex grow. Flex grow. So suppose one point I given as flex grow. That means you can see width adjusted. So if I say 2 points, that means the width will be adjusted. So it will not have any effect. So 10 points. So adjustment will not be there. If I don't give flex grow, that means it will be normal width. It will be normal width. But it's very good to important to define flex grow. Actually, 1, 2, 3 are not points actually. 1 means true. Do you want to grow or not? True. And 0 is not growing and 1 is growing. That's it. You cannot use other points. It is either true or false. True, false are defined with 0, 1. That means they have to adjust the width evenly and fit them. Then we have to use combination of this. When you are arranging the content, so we have to define like this. We have to configure like this. So this is very important for responsive designs. I just added some boxes, but actually it will contain so many things inside. That means this is a box. But usually what happens, so we will design a div inside it. So this I defined as some box. So class as some box header. Here we keep a heading, some JBL, some speaker. So we have another div. So this class we have like box body. And inside this we have an image source. So images assets some speaker dot jpg. So width I defined as suppose some 100% and the height I defined as some 200. So that is the body. And we have like so box footer div class. We can apply different effects for them. Footer. And in the footer I given a heading. So some price, some price like this. So ampersand hash 8377 semicolon like this. This is the content inside the box. And like that, so we have some boxes. That means we have another box. So this is like some earpods. And here we define some earpods. And this is third box. We are adding some another option like Nike shoe. Okay. And here we defined as shoe. So we are adding this kind of data inside it. That's what you see in shopping sites. Suppose here Lee boot, and here we defined as shoe 1. That's enough. So like that we added here. Okay, let's keep that 4 boxes. And you can see the content will be arranged in this way. And very important, all this content is in this way. Because I defined the width as 100% for that. That means it fits accordingly. Suppose I am configuring this. So the width of all these images as suppose some pixels like 200 pixels width. Okay, the same width is used for all of them, 200 pixel width. Because if you keep 100%, it should occupy the browser. So we can keep occupied the browser and it will be like this. This is arranging the content in a proper way. And when I am adjusting this zoom levels, you can see that and increase it. So you can see it automatically comes to the next line. Next product will come to next line. you will not have any horizontal scrolling. You will not have any horizontal scrolling. It will adjust accordingly. I'm adjusting the browser width. So, and I'm adjusting the browser width. You can see the content will be now like this. I'm arranging, I'm increasing and decreasing. You see the content will be arranging in this way. This looks better. Horizontal scrolling you cannot keep. So, and very important is here, better to mention the option as grow. So that if you give flex grow, the width will be adjusted for the elements to fit the next row. If only one element, it will fit the entire row. Multiple, it will use others. So flexible designs requires the flex grow and how we can manage the flex options. So this is generally how you create the flex, how you can add the flex. Usually this is arranging the content in a responsive way. Responsive, some more options are there, I will tell you. Next point we will discuss that. But flex boxes, flex options are very important. So display flex is not just an option. To that, you need to add so much of content. You need to add so much of content. You need to keep, so flex flow, we need to keep justify content. We need to keep flex grow, flex directions, flex wrappings. All these are very important to configure. This is general, a card style. We designed a simple card style for presenting the content. Actually, I haven't mentioned the classes here. So see, so box header. For box header, some background color as suppose some tomato like this, and the color as white. So similarly, for box header and the box footer, so we are configuring header and footer, and usually it will have that appearance for them. So we can give the padding for that, padding as some 5 pixel padding for that, and the text aligned to center, and you can give that appearance for them. This is giving a proper card style so that you see generally in the sites. And this will be a responsive one. This will be a responsive one. That is display flex, how you can configure the display styles and use the display styles. Actually, it's also there, but we don't prefer that table. So because tables we don't want to use anymore. We want to all arrange information and keep the information by using displays only. Either you use display block and display options. So they are not suitable for tables. I already told you, tables have a problem in loading the content. So better not to use tables for arranging such information. Better always use display flex and the display blocks and display inlines. So that's how we need to manage. Right. That is one simple option for working with display. Now, how you can keep everything on center, display center. How you can arrange anything exactly center. How we can manage anything exactly center. For that, what are the options we have to define? So generally, to display center and configure the options center, so we have to arrange the content accordingly. So for example, see, so when we are trying to handle contents and we want to arrange in the center of this, usually what happens is, already I showed you, let's create one more screen so that we can keep it center. So center screen, we want the content to display in the center screen. So how we can display the content in the center screen? So how we can handle that? So let's see. For that, I am handling here a simple example. Go to center. This is also, I told you, .html. This is also the point I told you, how we can keep everything in the center. So head, title. So let's say login. Okay, let's create a login screen. So in the body section, we are designing a login screen. And when we are designing the login screen, our intention is to keep the login content in the center. The login content in the center. So how we can keep the login content in the center? So let's create a div and put the class as container. Okay. And here we are adding a simple heading. So some user login. And we have a data list and a data term, username, and data definition input type is equal to text. Just a design of options. And another data term password, and we have input type is equal to password. And here we have an button, so that is login. This is inside the container we are designing this. Now we need to keep this content on the center screen. That's what we want here to arrange. So for example, so for this container, I am defining so style, and we have dot container. Container, so I am giving here option like, so border first, so 2 pixels solid, some dark cyan. Okay, padding as some 20 pixel. Okay, so this keeps the container, and width as some 250 pixel. That will keep the width in this way. And we have like border radius, border radius, and some 20 pixel. So we are arranging in this way. We want to keep this onto the center of the screen. That's how you see several banners and advertisements usually when you see the websites. So that means I want to keep it in the center screen. The background, I'm adding body, and background image I'm defining. So URL, so it is from assets, some shoe.jpg. Okay, and I am giving so background repeat as no repeat, and background position as center, and it will be like this, center. I defined the option like that. And because of height, so height is suppose we defined as 400 pixels, then it will be like this. So it depends on how much height we defined. It will be like this. We can set the position. Now we want this container with a background color. So background color, I will use RGB. So red, green, blue values, I will mix up with certain color. With an alpha also we will define. So this is RGB. That means some background color combination here I am using. Let's put a RGBA, and alpha I will give as some 0.4. That is transparency for the content. So here we have to define for that. So that is the background color for container. So here we have these options to remove. I have added a wrong value here. Yeah. So that means some 200. So some 220, 210 and 210, and we have 0.5 transparency is there. Okay, let's keep this kind here. We need to keep arranging this into the center screen. Means how we can manage that onto the center screen. Here, first option is generally the displaying I configured this as align items to center. Align items to center. But the items are not aligned to center. We said here, justify content to center. We are adding justify content to center. It's not applying them. That means we have alignment. So justifying content to center. So actually this align items to center, justify content to center. This is we writing inside the container. That means it is not for container actually. It is for the items inside container, but they are already there in a normal way. So the body which contains that height, we have justify items, align items to center, justify content. In the body, I defined that because in the body we have this container. And usually there is an option to use, people use different techniques. Which is the best technique, I will tell you. That means people use different techniques for that. Generally, people use an option, margin. So people define the margin auto. Auto means it will fit accordingly. So margin auto means it will fit accordingly. That means the margin will be set accordingly. But here you can see margin auto. So it depends on what is parent and what is child you have configured. That means because body itself is parent, then margin auto will not make any much sense here. Margin auto, it is not going to display any sense here. So then usually what we have to do is when we are arranging the contents, because margin auto is okay. Margin auto is okay for certain situations, not every time. That means suppose I am giving this margin auto. So for, let's add this margin auto for the container. Container I am giving margin as auto. That means auto margin is defined for that. You can see that it will come to center. So this is okay because margin auto, it is okay because it depends on the containers, but this is not recommended. That means it will adjust the margins. Adjusting the margins and keeping it center is not good every time. Why? Because in the responsive design, so when what happens is if there are other contents also beside it, then like advertisements, then it will have problem. Margin auto will put the margins, adjust the margins. So suppose I remove that margin auto, it is normal. Suppose I say display flex. You can see display flex is not suitable for this container. Why? Because flex means it will keep everything set side by side. I will keep in the body now. You can see now it correctly cuts. That means we have to put a display flex inside the body. So it will make the flexible display for your containers. That means whatever present inside the body, it will become flexible. And justify content to center, align items to center. It will keep everything vertically, horizontally center. So for that, remember, height is also very important to mention, and it will keep your content directly center like this. So this is a very important option to handle. I will increase the transparency level. People generally give this by using margin auto. Which is not good because it will disturb the alignments. So later, if you have some content beside it, it will have a problem. So that is not good. That's the reason we need to handle in this way. We need to configure in this way. So this is one important option to design. So when you are creating contents, placing the content in center is very much required. Several website templates have this mechanism. That means they will arrange the content exactly on center. Width, height, so you can do. For that means what we have to do is where your container is present. Your container is present. That means it is in the body. So there you have to define. You have to define align items as center, justify content to center, and display as flex. Remember, if I give margin auto, it will come to center, but it will not come to center vertically and horizontally correctly. That's the reason always follow this mechanism. So auto margins are used for setting up the margin automatically according to the contents coming beside them. But if you don't have any content beside them, then you have to follow this mechanism. This is the correct way of configuring the options. So display flex, justify content center, align item center. Several website templates will be in this way. Remember, later you can change the position also. That means, for example, initially they will be center. After that, you can keep position sticky. You can keep position sticky, and you can keep top as some 0 pixels or 10 pixels top. You define something like that. That means what is the point is if below some more content comes. So that means below some more content comes. Then this position will be sticky for that. Position sticky and top you have to arrange for your box. This is the box container. For container you have to arrange. Position sticky and top, if you arrange this, what happens is initially it looks center. But if there is more content coming below it, that means below that container, so much content is coming. So usually lot of other content may be coming below it. So several websites will have that kind of scenario actually. I will show you. So some more content is coming below it, suppose. I will copy some paragraph, right? So I am copying some paragraph. Some more content is coming below it. Now you can see that generally what happens is if there are more content, so then when you are scrolling to that particular location and it will scroll to that area, it will scroll and it will keep that area there. Of course, now you have to change your alignment, like you have to keep this div above, below where you want to place the content. So that means initial you can keep it center, later you can keep it float. You can keep it sticky positions. Those will come later. So you can adjust that in that way. That means if you have content below. So if you have content below, then you can make that. That's what you have seen in some websites already. I showed you. So like we designed a toolbar, if you remembered. Suppose you see this is the toolbar. You can see this toolbar is correctly center on page. Like select movie, select cinema, select date, select timing, select seats, book. This is center on page correctly. But when I scroll, then what happens? Because some more content is there. At the top, it will go to the top and stick to the top. That means if I scroll down and again it will come to the center. Initially, it will be centered. But when I am scrolling, it can be sticky and it can keep that sticky at the top. This kind of design we can create. So when you create such toolbars and put some sections below that, so that is how it is going to manage your content. So this is the basic template, means how we can display options, different types of display options. Now, after that, we need to understand CSS float text effects, how we can handle text effects, and how we can deal with CSS 2D and 3D options, how we can deal with 2D and 3D. That we will see in our next session. Now I will give you one exercise into the classroom. In the classroom, I will post one exercise. You have to design that according to what we have learned up to now, and you have to submit it. Okay. So I will give you one exercise. That exercise you have to do, right? You have to handle that, right? And these examples and everything I will upload into the classroom. Okay, these examples I will upload into the classroom, and tomorrow you have to submit that exercise that I am posting now. I will post into the classroom, go through that. Then tomorrow we will continue with this. And if we can finish text effects 2D and 3D, then we can go into Bootstrap. We will start learning about Bootstrap. Okay, tomorrow we'll continue.